Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Protec Magic 2 Whiskers. How the heck did I deploy that? Actually, it was a little tricky when I unboxed this. I did not understand. I had handled the original Protec Magic Whiskers, which I think had like a hidden bolster actuation. This is different. It's also quite a bit larger, if I remember correctly. So the way that this works, and it is awkward the first time you do it, but it becomes, not necessarily second nature, but it becomes like, oh, this is a very convenient and very natural feeling way to deploy this. What you're doing here is bracing on the back side, this rear scale, and then you are pushing with your palm against this back end of the scale, which shifts forward. See, you can see that locking system come up, and then once you release the scale, it goes down and locks into a little compartment on the back of the blade, which is really cool. This is unique. I mean, as far as like, you know, a hidden scale release on an automatic knife, it still is that. We've definitely seen that before, but the way that this actuates is something that at least I have never seen before, and I actually like it more than the standard Whiskers. There's a lot to say here. There's a lot of other things to talk about. So thanks so much to eKnives for loaning this knife for review. It will go back to eKnives. I don't get to keep it. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. I will put a link in the description for this guy at eKnives so that you guys can check it out if you want to. Let's go ahead and measure it. This is a big knife, not small, not at all. It's actually about 8.65 inches, and then your blade length is about 3.8. No, not quite that much. About 3 3/4, and then your cutting edge is also just about 3 3/4. Pretty big, not massive, but pretty big. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others, up against the AD10 and up against my own Excalibur here, which is also about the same way. I think that the Whiskers is maybe slightly longer. Pretty close though, definitely on the larger side. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2. And the Spyderco Para 3 actually is quite a bit larger than even the PM2 with substantially more cutting edge. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Group Chillionaire, in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. How's the action? Well, I mean, it's an automatic knife. This is absolutely 100% classified as a switchblade. So if you're wondering, if you're like, I've got legal limitations to switchblades where I live, is this considered a switchblade? Absolutely it is. Absolutely. The action is not, it's not like the sensation, you know, feeling when you flip a titanium frame lock, right? And it does not operate on bearings. You are shifting a scale, and then a spring, it's primed in this position. A spring is throwing the blade into the open position. So it's kind of a unique feeling. As far as the quality of action, it feels very similar to other Protec automatics. I don't think this feels quite as powerful. Maybe it's because of where I'm bracing and where I'm holding when the blade deploys. I actually feel like I have a pretty solid grip on this. I wasn't super convinced initially. I was like, oh, this feels foreign. I feel like I'm going to drop it. But I'm actually braced pretty well. I don't feel like I'm going to throw it or drop it anymore. In fact, quite the opposite. I really feel like it's solid in my hand when I deploy it. So the action is essentially what I'd expect from a Protec, maybe slightly less powerful, but still plenty powerful. The spring is still throwing the blade into the open position as long as you have the lock held down. So that's really all you need there. But it's kind of just the cool factor of deploying it in a way that you wouldn't expect. I will note that I like this, and then the sense that, like, if you are, not that you should ever leave your knife out. It's your responsibility to keep it in your pocket or put it away safely. But if you are in a position where you accidentally leave it out and you're around little kids or adults who are essentially the equivalent of children, you might not want them deploying the thing. And it is not a thing that I feel like you could accidentally discover because of what needs to be held down before this scale will shift. I mean, unless somebody grabs it like this specifically and pushes on that scale, just like this, while holding onto the pocket clip, it's not going to deploy. It's not something that I think could really happen on accident. If you watched my unboxing video, I looked over this thing for a while before I actually stopped recording and continued to mess with it off camera. I eventually gave up and had to look up a video on how, because I was like, I have no idea how this deploys, and I feel like the vast majority of people might be the same thing. So that's kind of nice, but again, you shouldn't be leaving your knife out so that people could, pick it up. But yeah, the action is good is what I'm trying to say. Carry profile thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's actually not incredibly thick, maybe slightly thicker. Not too much. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. Pretty easy knife to carry, for being on the larger side. It is still a large object. It takes up a decent amount of room in the pocket, but not much more than the Spyderco PM2. As far as larger knives go, yeah, this was definitely one of the more convenient ones that I've carried. Let's go ahead and weigh it. What are we looking at for materials? We're looking at aluminum. Pretty big piece of steel back here for the spacer and the lock. And then you have 154 cm as the blade steel. It's a good steel. Curious decision there. Yeah, aluminum, 154 cm, a little bit of steel. I'm going to guess this weighs in the high 4s or the low 5s. High 4s, 4.8 ounces. Not bad. Balance on this guy is actually favoring the butt, which is probably because of the additional weight in the spacer spring or the spacer lock. But anyways, let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very recommendable and very affordable. You can find the link for these down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel or the pinned comment. So unfortunately, Protech insists on using these hex heads. It's fine. It works. Even when you're using the exact right size, you will end up dicking that pivot up as soon as you have to adjust your Protech. You might get lucky. All of the Protechs that I've ever owned and carried and eventually needed to adjust, if they have this head, I've been lucky a maximum of one time. After that, as soon as I put it in there, it ends up smashing one of those edges upward and it becomes an eyesore, which for a lot of people, regularly using these knives, they don't really care because it's not like it's going to strip super easily. It's just kind of ugly to look at. If you're somebody who cares about that, there you go. If you're somebody who doesn't care, well, then you don't care, obviously. And then back here, what do we have here? A smaller one. Great. So I don't love that. And I think the pocket clips, yeah, like these are Torx. Why won't Protech just move the Torx? I don't understand. I don't have the hex heads in this set, but obviously if you buy a larger bit set, then they usually come with it. Not a difficult thing to take apart, but if you've ever taken apart an auto that's got the spring inside the pivot, not super fun to put back together. So you really have to ask. I'm going to tell you right now, like the few times I've done it, I'm like, wow, I hate this. I'm never taking them apart again. And I haven't. I just use the hot soap and water, compressed air and oil, method. I don't like getting inside the pivots for automatic knives. But if you absolutely have to take it apart, you can do it. It's not impossible. It will be annoying to put it back together. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness on this knife. So blade stock thickness is coming in at 125 thousandths. Okay, meat and potatoes time. How are the ergonomics on this knife? It's very comfortable. Pocket clip is far from the worst pocket clip I've ever seen. It's very long and it has this swoop and then there's an additional bill, which I don't love. It's what I always complain about with Civivi knives. It's just very grabby. It's much more likely a clip like this is going to get caught on something, the edge of a table, a bar stool, something like that, and just bend out. It is a steel clip. And steel clips tend to not be as forgiving as titanium. They are factually not as forgiving as titanium clips. So I would prefer that the clip was shorter and didn't have this bill at the end. But functionally, in and out of the pocket, it works just fine. Ergonomically, I can feel it. It's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, it's definitely there. Outside of that, very, very comfortable. You have tons of real estate there. Very good. Plain black aluminum scale. This is a very Protech-y looking Protech. In fact, it's a very knife looking knife. This is one of the most classic knife profiles ever. There's a lot. If you're thinking that knife looks like the this or the that, it probably does. And, 100 years before whatever you're comparing to, was another knife that looked like that because it's just a classic handle and blade profile, right? Lots of cutting edge. Protech does a good job with this. To my knowledge, they do a great job with heat treatment. Cutting edge feels great. Pretty even. I think it actually gets a little wider right here, but nothing crazy. Honestly, this all looks good. I like the stonewash finish. It says Protech USA, which is a little bit big, but not far from the craziest billboarding. It says we of course have Whiskers design and then 154 cm over there. Why 154 cm? Protech has always used 154 cm, but a lot of their automatic knives with 154 cm are nowhere near as expensive as this. I am fully aware that the system that is involved with this hidden scale release system definitely does add manufacturing cost. But wow, if you haven't looked at the price, wow, we will come back to that. Using it, the blade geometry is good. It's kind of just got that medium, it's not super thick here. We've got a nice flat that runs out about maybe 60% the length of the blade. You have a nice wedge, nice tip, not an enormous amount of strength. So obviously don't do anything abusive with the tip of this knife, but plenty of cutting belly, very easy to touch up and maintain. Here's the plunge grind. Might bother some people a little more. Not something that's going to bother me. It doesn't look like it's something that would create a smile after a couple of sharpenings, but I'm not the person to ask about that, honestly. But yeah, it's a good blade. It's just really, really big. It's probably going to be more blade than the average person needs, but it is really cool. And that's really the name of the game when it comes to this guy. The knife itself, the design itself, is nothing special. What's special about this is the cool scale release. It's cool. Every time you get an opportunity to use this knife, you're going to smile because you have an opportunity to throw the blade. And it feels awesome. It's cool. It's also, if you're around other people who are, number one, comfortable with knives, and number two, like knives. You have a social group who likes to, maybe you're the knife guy in your group. I am in my group, obviously. And they always want to see what I'm carrying because they know that I've got weird and wacky stuff. This is the type of knife that is a fun conversation piece. You got to be careful, make sure that they know and are feeling confident while they're using this. I would say let them try it over carpet just in case they drop it. But once they figure it out, they'll be good to go. And I just think it's cool. It's a cool system. Not everybody's going to love it. But this is the type of thing that you buy not specifically for dollar utility because it's not even close, right? You don't buy it for that. It's a good knife. It's made well. But I mean, if you're looking for a good knife that's made well, you can pay far less than this and get the exact same level of utility. When you buy this, you are paying for that fun system. You are paying for the cool factor. Most people are aware of this. I think Protech is absolutely aware that this is who they're trying to cater to. The people who are interested in buying this legitimately, that is legitimately what they're buying. There shouldn't be any confusion, right? The issue is how much money they want for it, which is, again, we'll come back to. There's a little lanyard slot back here, which is fine. They kept it out of the way and allowed the clip to be prioritized. The clip is unfortunately only able to be mounted for right-handed carry. Then again, this is not a system that can be manipulated effectively with the left hand. So if you're left-handed, you're just kind of out of luck. There's no way to safely manipulate this. They would have to make a left-handed version. So it makes sense. I think that this is one of the few cases where it would have been a bad idea to put the mounting position for the pocket clip on the left-hand side, sort of indicating that it is usable for left-handed people. It's not. At least I cannot do it at all with my left hand. Is there blade play? So unfortunately, yes. But let me talk about this. Side to side, there's none. Up and down, there is. This would be a problem on a frame lock, which relies on proper lock face geometry. Up and down play means a potential for slippage, which means the knife could potentially disengage during normal use. Same with like a liner lock. On this, because the tab on the back of the lock fits into this slot like a puzzle piece, it is a way stronger system. Way stronger. It is a bummer that it moves slightly, but there is no way that that's going to disengage outside of abusing it or, allowing the scale to lift that lock right there. I mean, it literally has to come out and away for the knife to disengage. Outside of that, it's not going to. I would prefer that the tolerances were tight enough that it did not move at all. And I got to be real with you guys, it doesn't move very much. It moves enough for me to feel it. So you let me know if you own this knife, if yours is absolutely solid. But I would venture to guess that all of them are going to have a little tiny bit of up and down play. But there's an enormous amount of engagement with this locking system. So in this case, up and down play is not an indication of, potential unintentional disengagement of the locking system. Is there a pivot lash? It's kind of tricky to do on an auto, but no. Nice and smooth and consistent in here. We have the click into the closed position. Most autos actually have some detent lash. This doesn't move at all, so that's pretty cool. Is it centered? Yes, it is. It is dead center there, so that's cool. Should be noted, this is, it doesn't really have like a back, like this is the back spacer, but this piece sort of comes around and is wider here to accommodate for where the spacer or the lock spacer sort of ends. So it kind of has that Lego construction with no actual standalone backspacer. So if you were curious, that's how that, like the seam isn't directly in the middle, it's over here. So that's why it looks like that, because this piece on this side, the non-show side piece, is larger. So anyways, how much do they want for this thing? If you made it all the way to the end of the video without just looking, $340. I saw that on eKnives, who, by the way, sent this to me. And by the way, if you use that link and go to eKnives and buy it, I will make money from that, right? So you'd think I'd say, oh yeah, it's totally worth it. No, that is way too much money. Yeah, it's made in the United States. Protech is still what I'd call a smaller operation. They are nowhere near the size of Kershaw, Spyderco, right? Kershaw makes a nice US-made automatic. Now, I don't know the exact percentage of the knife that is made in the USA, but enough to be able to claim USA made. You can get a nice USA made automatic knife from Kershaw that a lot of times it's in like, sometimes it'll be like Magna Cut. Most of the time it's CPM 154 for between 150 and $200, right? This guy's $340. Are Protec knives typically worth more? Is it worth spending a little extra money and getting a Protec? Yeah, in my opinion, it is. I think Protec does make a superior product. Not everybody needs that extra sauce. It is really just extra, like little things like fit and finish and like overall quality and power in the action. They do some special finishes here and there. But I think Protec does make a superior product, while Kershaw still makes a fine product for what they charge. If for $340, this should have definitely been a different steel at the very least. I understand that the mechanism does add production costs. Absolutely. I would be flabbergasted to find out that it's adding like $100 to the production. It just seems ridiculous. I expected to see this come in at about $250. And I was going to say, it's a little high. But then I looked at eKnives price and I thought, this is an error. So I went over to Blade HQ. And, some people are going to say, no, on Blade HQ, it's only $260. No, you're looking at the Whiskers 1. I just looked a second ago, and they have the sold out Magic 2, $340. It's $340. Even if this was Magna Cut, I'd still be like, yikes. It just seems insane. It just seems wet. And I don't know. I don't know how much this system costs. But I cannot believe that it costs that much more, right? So is this knife worth picking up? The biggest bummer, honestly, was the fact that the lock wasn't absolutely like zero blade play. It had a little up and down. That was a bummer. But the second biggest, but the biggest blow was the price tag. This is cool. If it were me, would I spend $340 on this type of cool factor? No. I might spend $250 on it. I might spend $90 less. That just seems like it'd be a lot better. But 154 cm, if it's fine. If you want to keep that, on your knives that are much closer to $200, fine. But like when you're up here in the 300s, this has to be it's got to be a more premium blade steel. There's nothing wrong with 154 cm. It's a fine steel, but this needs to. I mean, if you guys utilize MagnaCut, then use MagnaCut in this. Like it's silly to me for this to be 154 cm. Personally, this is not a knife that I would spend $340 on. But if you have $340 burning a hole in your pocket and you think this is the coolest knife you've ever seen, you will probably like it. And let me be clear about this. This is a high quality tool. This isn't a sloppy, slap together thing outside of the unfortunate slight up and down play in the locking system. This is a well-made knife. Protech makes a good knife. They just charge a very confusing amount of money on certain models. So really, really cool. Not something I'm going to recommend to the vast majority of people. Thanks anyway to eKnives for loaning it to me. I always appreciate eKnives allowing me to look at this stuff and send it back, and they never, they're always cool about it. They just send it and they don't ask me to, only say nice things or anything like that. They say sure. So I appreciate that. eKnives is awesome. Check them out. They have a ton of different Protech knives and just lots of really cool American stuff and other stuff. So they're linked down there anyway. That's going to be it. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.